The reason for choosing the title, it's a question that I get asked often. The short answer is that I've been a marketing guy most of my life. And I figured that the title would be intriguing. So the title story is a little comical. I'll tell you about the character, and then I'll answer your question. So my editor, who is absolutely wonderful, and it was a joy working with him. When he came upon my suggested title, he said, "Camel Merchant of Philadelphia for a book about Maharaja Ranjit Singh? No, no, no. People are going to be confused. Nobody's going to understand what this book is all about." And I said, "Fine. I mean, you're the editor. What the heck do I know? You tell me what you want to call it." So Karthik says, "I think something a little more accessible, like An American in Lahore." And, privately I yawned a little and I said, "Fine, he's the editor. He knows more about this stuff than I do. And I wanted the book to be successful. So I said, fine, An American in Lahore it's going to be." Well, fortunately for me, his marketing team got wind of the title and they overruled him and said, "No way. We want the title to be The Camel Merchant of Philadelphia." And really, I'm being tongue in cheek, but the graphic shows a picture of a Sikh king and then camel merchant in Philadelphia? What the heck? That's exactly the sentiment that the title and the name are designed to arouse. They're designed to arouse curiosity. And I can tell you that this is probably my 15th or 16th event during this book tour, and I get asked this question every time. So let me tell you about the Camel Merchant of Philadelphia. So the Quakers are a very peaceful denomination, a Christian denomination. A lot of them, they migrated from the UK, from England to the US centuries ago. And they're very peace-loving by nature. So that's kind of their creed. They never fight in wars, even when they're being conscripted and so on and so forth. So Harlan was from a Quaker family. And, he had one brother and multiple sisters. His mother, they were pretty well off. His mother decided, though, that the daughters were getting all the wealth and said, "Sons, tough luck. You guys go out and make your fortune." So that's what Harlan decided to do. He boarded a ship and he set sail and sailed east. So he ended up in Calcutta. In those days, Calcutta was the headquarters of the British East India Company. And in those days, you didn't need to go to college to be a doctor. You just had to pass an exam and you were given a certificate. So Harlan, through self-study, managed to pass the doctor's exam. I'm sorry for those of you who spent, 5, 6, 7 years slogging away in medical school. Harlan did it the easy way, and he passed the exam and was commissioned on a British ship. Now, Harlan was in India to make money, and there was no money to be made as a doctor on a British ship. So after a couple of years, he quit and started looking for opportunities, and somehow he drifted northwards to Punjab. I'll give you the short version. He made his way to Ranjit Singh's court, convinced him that he was no spy, and he was offered a job in the army. And Harlan says, "No, no, no, I'm here to make money. An army job is no good." So finally, Ranjit Singh gave him the governorship of a tiny kingdom, one of the kingdoms that I mentioned that the Gorkhas had captured, Nurpur, and he was installed as the governor of Nurpur. So a German visitor who came to visit Harlan a few years ago wrote in his account that when Harlan was appointed the governor of Nurpur, the condition was that if you do a good job, you'll get a more lucrative governorship. But if you do a lousy job, your nose is going to be cut off. So he reported in his book that Harlan's nose seemed to be intact, so probably he did a decent job as a governor. That was Reverend Wolf's conclusion. So actually he did. He was then given the governorship of a very rich territory called Gujranwala, the place that Ranjit Singh was from originally. And boy, did he make money. He was very corrupt. He made money hand over fist, and he was undone by his greed. So in the early 1930s, Ranjit Singh fell ill. He had a stroke. And of course, Dr. Harlan was summoned because he was nominally a doctor. Now, the British were visiting, and they told the king about this new galvanic treatment that might cure a stroke. So, the galvanic treatment consisted of applying a small electric shock to the patient, and the theory was that the effects of the stroke would be reversed. So, Harlan was summoned, and he was asked, can you make this for the emperor? And, Harlan was a Chalta Purza kind of guy. Yeah, sure, no problem. But it's going to cost you, and it's going to cost you big. Ranjit Singh got so angry at being extorted by his governor, who had come to him with nothing and now was wealthy beyond imagination. He was so angry that he kicked him out of Punjab on that very same day. So this rich provincial governor now finds himself penniless on the borders of the Punjab, and then he goes and allies himself with the Afghans, who were great enemies of the Sikh kingdom. So he stayed there for a few years. Then he went back to went back to the US. And there, much to his chagrin, he discovered that his brother had lost all the money that he had been sending back over, more than a decade. He had, chosen unwise investments. So once again, Harlan was penniless. So Harlan scratched his head. He had to do something. He was persona non grata in Punjab. The Afghans didn't want him back either. The British East India Company had banned him as well. So he couldn't go back to the place where he had made his fortune. Then he had this really, really bright idea, bright within quotes. The US Civil War was about to break out, and Harlan thought, wouldn't it be interesting to import some camels from Afghanistan to the US? Because there might be some warfare in the Texas desert, and these camels will come in very, very handy. So Harlan, was a go-getter. He started lobbying the War Department. He lobbied and he lobbied and he lobbied. And finally, the War Department said yes. So this part of the story didn't make it to the book, so I'll tell this to you. My editor cut it out. So Harlan successfully got them to appropriate the money, but the contract was given to somebody else. So his dream of importing camels into the US remained just a dream. Somebody else got the contract, and they actually imported 66 camels from Syria. So 66 camels arrived in the US from Syria, along with their camel driver, whose name was Ali. Now, because Ali had been on the Hajj, the Muslim pilgrimage, he was called Haji Ali, because that's the title that you get when you go on the Hajj. Of course, the Americans couldn't say Haji Ali, so they corrupted his name to Hi Jolly. So Haji Ali became Hi Jolly, and to this day, Hi Jolly is remembered as the first documented Muslim immigrant to America. All because of Josiah Harlan. The camels, unfortunately, didn't fare much better than Harlan either. They tried using them in the US. The experiment was a failure. Apparently, the camels were very ill-tempered, and they tended to bite people. So nobody wanted to deal with them. Finally, some of them were sold to the Ringling Brothers Circus, and the rest were let go in the Texas desert. So that was the end of the Camel Merchant of Philadelphia. So this one's a bit of a humorous story. The others tend to be, some of them are poignant. They talk about heroic characters. And of course, the last few sections of the book really deal with the tragedy of the decline and fall of the empire, which, as I said before, can only be described as Shakespearean. Any other questions?